the night that he announced selling to Spotify for 100 mil, he called Alex Jones and had a really long conversation, like a 2 or 3 hour long conversation with him about the whole reason he moved over is because this is him declaring war on the freedom of speech and like how he's tired of YouTube censoring everything. And so I kind of started going, all right, well, maybe there's some relevance to this, but it is Alex Jones, so who the fuck knows? He could just be making this up for views. And so I started paying attention to Joe Rogan, and anytime he made a public comment on the whole Spotify situation, which is not very often, and when he does, it's kind of just like a really quick offhand comment. Subtle. It's a good word. He did mention in a recent podcast, oh yeah, I talked to Alex Jones right after I sold to Spotify. And so that not only confirmed to me that the conversation did happen, but now it's like, did the conversation about his war against the whole freedom of speech and taking a stand against YouTube censorship and kind of YouTube taking down what they don't want to promote and promoting whatever serves their own agenda. I've noticed that in the times that I've been following Joe Rogan, he's really anal about, oh, we can't play that music or we can't show that video, even if we're talking about it, because it'll get demonetized and whatnot. So we all know that he is really not okay with getting demonetized and deplatformed by YouTube potentially, right? And so, man, this whole Spotify deal I think is amazing for him, not only as a podcaster and showing what's really possible if you really have that legit of a podcast, but also I'm really interested to see how this whole situation with YouTube plays out, because here's what's going to happen. The moment his podcast is taking off of YouTube completely at the end of 2020, and the moment all of the videos are moved over to Spotify, it's exclusively on Spotify. He has full rights over what he can talk about on a show. There's no censorship, and it's free to listen to on Spotify. YouTube is going to go through some interesting changes. I don't know what those changes are yet, but I have a feeling they're not only going to, start trying to paint themselves in a more positive light on the censorship side. So they're probably going to change their algorithm. It'll be interesting to see what kind of videos are getting views in the beginning of 2021 and how they respond to Joe Rogan being off the podcast or off the platform. Also, it'll be interesting to see, do they start promoting video podcasts more because they want someone else to rise up and take Joe Rogan's spot, keep people on the platform. It'll be interesting to see. So I don't know. What are some of your thoughts on this?
Yeah, and that's something we've been talking about, especially with this whole with the Joe Rogan thing. It's just like, what does that mean for podcasts on YouTube? And just I feel like just even about the censorship around podcasts, is that going to be like a little bit tighter? Because I think you mentioned it, like they're not gonna want to like give customers to Spotify, right? Like the customers they do have, and since it's I'm seeing it as competition now, it's just going to be interesting to see the way they kind of maneuver around it.
Here's the other advantage that Spotify has over YouTube, and I just realized this. And here's the thing, guys. I'm a fucking pattern recognition machine. I already talked about on several of these podcasts kind of like the pattern of how TV was overshined by YouTube and how now YouTube can now be overshined by Spotify doing this. This is some big chess moves here, because YouTube is almost slave to the advertisers, because the only way YouTube gets paid is when advertisers promote ads on their fucking videos. And that's why there's such a big censorship thing, because some advertisers, and I don't even know if this is actually legit, I feel like this is YouTube's almost excuse to censor.
Do you think they're just playing it safe?
They're playing it safe. They're saying your video is a little bit too controversial. We don't like that topic, but only because advertisers don't want their videos showing up on a video like this, right? But here's the thing. As an advertiser, I personally advertise on YouTube, and I think anybody who actually knows what they're fucking doing on ads, they don't give a shit what the video is about. They give a shit who's watching the video and if they will be interested in what I'm offering through my ads, right? It's, yes, you can put your ads on specific videos, but a lot of times you're targeting general interests or general populaces of people.
Yeah, and it follows them. Like, let's say they're interested in dating, but then they're on a different video. It still might pop up, but just because their interest is dating.
Right, exactly. And so that's why I'm saying I don't even know if I 100% believe, YouTube, we have to demonetize this because our advertisers, fuck that shit. Here's why Spotify is going to fucking turn the tides on YouTube real quick. And man, guys, I struggle to say this because my fucking business was built on YouTube. My current business is still running via YouTube, both on the advertising side and on the creator side. And honestly, guys, I never thought YouTube would ever have any competition. I was like, Facebook, temporary. Just like MySpace, temporary. Just like Zanga before MySpace, it was temporary. Just like name any fucking social media platform. I think Facebook and Instagram, I can just feel it in my bones. They don't have the sticking power that YouTube has or had before Spotify made this major chess move. And here's why. Because YouTube is slave to the advertisers, or so they claim. Just like I said, doctors are slave to the insurance companies who pay them or won't pay for the patient's procedures and whatnot. Spotify is slave only to themselves. If you've ever listened to Spotify without a premium membership, every single advertisement that you hear is sign up for Spotify Premium, sign up for Spotify Premium. Spotify decides if they want to advertise or not, and they run ads for free because it's their own platform. They are a slave to nobody, and they just made this giant chess move, and the ball is about to be in fucking YouTube's court because Spotify won't have to worry about censorship issues unless they fucking go fucking dictator like on this shit and decide for no reason to start pushing their own agendas too. But I don't know.
Yeah, and I also want to say, like, because I have the Spotify free version, and they're starting to push a lot more podcasts on it as well. So like after every little break, you know, you hear like, oh, come listen to my podcast where I talk about da 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 da. So that I feel like that I don't know what it was like before the Joe Rogan deal, because I know they've been gathering people, other YouTubers like Drama Alert, Keemstar, the FaZe Banks, and all those people kind of like for their own podcast. Yeah, but I think Joe has been like their biggest player yet.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's almost like Joe, I mean, his podcast has been around for so long and he's had such a wide variety of guests that it's almost like there is no one demographic that would only be interested in them. Guys like Drama Alert, they have a very specific audience, right? A lot of the other, there was another one, a couple of the guys from the David Dobrik vlog squad, I think also had their Spotify podcast video format or whatever. And that's the other thing is like, is Spotify going to open it up for any podcast to join on their video platform?
I think Joe's going to be the first, honestly. I know all the other podcasts are not video. They're just strictly like audio. But another thing that I just realized is like, I don't know if you were aware of like the whole Keemstar kind of like drama, whatever happened on. There was just big beef between H3, between Keemstar, and then ultimately one of Keemstar's advertisers, like someone that was supporting him, like G Fuel, they dropped them.
Why?
Because they were just getting a lot of messages like from H3 fans to cancel like Keemstar, you know?
Why?
I believe it was just because Keemstar is like his the way he portrays himself on YouTube is not in the greatest light. But I just found it interesting that Spotify it didn't really, you know, like Keemstar was able to kind of share his thoughts on the whole situation, and it's like YouTube wasn't, you know, like Spotify didn't drop him. They didn't stop the podcast. They kept it going. And I think that's a good sign, you know, of like what we're talking about. What are you able to say? Like, it's not going to be as, you know, so sensitive.
Yeah. Yeah. My only fear is that it's going to make people who aren't on Spotify, the video platform, irrelevant, right? If you only have a YouTube podcast, but, you know, these celebrity influencers, Joe Rogan, H3, you name it, people with huge millions and millions of fans, those are the only people allowed to put their video podcasts on Spotify. I think that could really change the game and almost make it a return to what TV was. Na, 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 na.